Diego, I'm very, very excited to have this conversation. I get to get into the head of my own boss, which is always a learning experience. Luckily, I think we have a lot of great minds think alike moments. So I don't think it'll be too much of a strange experience for me to understand where you're coming from. But this is going to be cool. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Sure is. I enjoy our conversations during the workday tremendously. So I'm looking forward to having a podcast conversation with you, especially with you as the host. You do such a good job.
See? All right. Let the audience know. My boss said I did a good job. So let's start the way we usually do, which is give us your little elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Diego Lomanto. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Writer. I've been with Writer for over a year. I've been doing the startup tech, B2B tech thing for more years than I care to count at this point, but I'm definitely a seasoned vet. Started my career back in the .com days. I love bringing technologies to markets. I love bringing transformative technologies that change the way people work, communicate, interact, engage. I love taking this technology out, tell the story of the technology, and help the market understand and adopt the technologies. And so that's been the through line to my career. I started as a developer. I went to school for marketing. I was undergrad in New York City, St. John's undergrad in the .com days, and I got my start building websites for fun. And I got a job doing that out the gate. And over time, I migrated. I found my way into the product marketing function. After a while, it was like apparent I wasn't going to be a developer. I didn't go to school for computer science, and as much as I loved it, it wasn't my strong suit. And then I found product marketing and product positioning, and communicating the value of technology, and I fell in love with that. And that's kind of where I segued my way into marketing and got my MBA from NYU Stern, and ended up doing marketing stuff from there that point on, and found my way continually into leadership positions. And in the early 2010s, started doing the startup thing. And I won't bore the audience with my resume, but found myself working with Writer and loving it so far.
All right. Well, our episode is done. You've told us our story. No. Uh, no. So thank you for sharing that through line. And now we're going to plumb into its depths. So let's go from the very beginning. You said that you found you just love the tech world and product marketing around technology. So talk about that relationship. Where did you form that first relationship with technology and specifically AI?
I mean, as a kid, my parents are immigrated here from Italy. I'm a kid of hardworking blue collar immigrants. Got a computer when I was a little kid. The nerd in my family. No one really understood me very well, but I was always, toiling away playing with my Commodore 64 and my early PCs. Just learning how to program because I was just fascinated with the fact that I could make something and then it would actually do something, right? So computer science was always interesting. And I just gravitated towards simulations of reality. And what that means as a 13-year-old was simulating baseball seasons on my computer, and constructing teams and then running full seasons. And so I was really fascinated with the fact that you can construct a reality and then simulate it. And then these games I would play, you'd be able to play against the computer. And that was my first engagement with artificial intelligence, because you'd be playing against these AIs, but they were so early, they were deterministic, right? So they were rules based and they would do things. So my fun thing to do would be to figure out how does the AI think? And then how can I counter that with strategies that would, take advantage of their weaknesses, right? Or what I know they would do. And so from early on, I was just really fascinated with AI. And I even know, it was kind of an AI winter at the time, just AI in general and being able to simulate the world on a computer in digital form.
So I'm hearing a bunch of different themes here. First of all, we've got the AI, obviously. But then we've got little Diego, let me get into the mind of my competitor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I happen to know you have a big competitive streak.
Is that
I would like to hear. In fact, the rumor is that you have a background as a pretty serious poker player. Is that true?
It is true. It is true. Actually, in fact, I paid for grad school as a part-time poker player. If anyone listening to this cares about poker, you'll know the boom in the 2000s with the moneymaker effect. Real shorthand. Guy named Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker in 2003. He was an amateur. He won his seat online for $39, and he ended up winning the World Series of Poker. And like classic TV, if you go look for it, if you haven't seen it, he beats like this guy Sammy Farha, who's sitting there with a cigar in his mouth and like the grizzled veteran. And this guy, this accountant from, I think he was Tennessee, won his seat online for $39 and beat a world class player to win a couple $1,000,000. And that kicked off this boom, and it really kicked off the online boom. I just love, like, you could hear it in the simulation, the mathematics behind baseball, which the probabilities, all that stuff really always fascinated me. And so I just took to it really quickly and played online while I was working, just as a side thing, and ended up having a pretty serious success for a couple of years. And then poker just got too hard to do as a side job. Like, anywhere there's money to be made, arbitrage exists and people become good at it. More and more AI got into the mix, and it just came harder and harder to do it for fun in spare time. So now I just do it as a hobby. I go play in the World Series every year, just because for the competitiveness. I love it. I love playing a tournament and just getting there and going deep in a tournament and playing against people. And I love it because you can also shut off work for a couple of days and just like be hyper focused. When you're at a poker table playing against people, it's all about that moment and beating them in that spot. And you really need to absorb all the information happening to you, happening in real time. So yeah, so the competitiveness is there. It's definitely the poker thing, but the poker's not just about competitiveness. It's actually like,
No, it's strategic. It's
it's
absolutely
strategic.
strategic. And that's the other theme that I'm picking up from this is the whole, okay, how do we employ strategy to our competitive moves? Yeah. So I would love to hear how you think those things shaped your marketing mind.
Yeah, I actually one day I want to write a book, and the book's going to be about like the art and science of poker and how it relates to business, because poker is a perfect blend of the qualitative and the quantitative, right? There's the math, and this is why it's such a good allegory for how marketing works. There's the math, right? You got the funnel, you have your conversion metrics, it's very data intensive marketing. But at the same time, there's creativity and there's art to it, right? And there's human and there's storytelling and there's really connection. And poker is exactly like that. Like, you have to be really good at the math and understand how all that works and understand probabilities and just like have an intuition for it. And at the same time, you're playing against people. You have to understand the metagame that's happening. You're telling a story with your hands. You have to understand the story people are telling with their hands, and then the competitiveness that goes into all of it, and the stamina and the daily grind that goes into it. Like, it's a real good comparable to how marketing works. So it really has shaped me. And I think the more poker I played, the better I got at marketing, because my probabilistic thinking got sharper and sharper. And I was able to reduce my biases, separate myself from the moment, and really just think about things holistically in the long run.
I see a thread we can follow. So you just talked about probabilistic and removing biases, what does that sound like to you today, Diego?
Sounds a little bit like AI.
There we go. Diego, by the way, loves a really good segue.
I
As
do.
like I can attest from our marketing meetings, we found a really good segue. Talk us through your journey. You took the helm of a fast growing AI company as the marketing leader
Yeah.
in a very unexplored landscape. There is no playbook for marketing in this industry just yet. What are you learning? Where did you start out? Where are you right now? Where are you going next? And what are the lessons, the hard won lessons that you can bring back? And I know that's a very all encompassing, so we can walk through that question by question. So first of all, when you came to writer, what was like, okay, these are the big rocks that I needed to accomplish as a marketing leader? And then we can talk about like how AI is changing marketing itself.
Prior to writer, I held a couple of marketing leadership positions. Right prior to it, I was at Ada, which is an AI chatbot company. And prior to that, I ran product marketing and a bunch of other functions at UiPath, which is a company I joined during Series B. I was there through our IPO, and from 50 million in revenue to over a billion. And if you don't know UiPath, it's an automation technology, RPA/automation. And prior to that, I had a couple of other startups. I ran marketing in a couple of other businesses. So I won't bore you once again with the resume, but a couple of exits and all good stuff along the way. The through line, as I said earlier, was bringing technology into people's day-to-day work to improve and enhance how people spend their day every day and engage with their customers and improve their business. Like, that's kind of the through line for what I've cared about and what type of businesses attracted me. And I spend, a lot of time comparing what we did at UiPath to Writer, because there's some parallels there. As an automation company, pre-AI wave. I mean, obviously AI has been around for a while, and I had an AI team at UiPath, but this was, in the late 2010s, early 2020s, before ChatGPT moment. Our job there was to figure out how to apply automation to business processes so that you free people up to do more human work and more creative work, and you make businesses operate better. And what attracted me to Writer is it's that mandate, but AI explodes the surface area of what's possible to actually impact with the technology. I don't have quantification, but if someone did a study and said like 10x more processes are agentifiable versus automatable, which, is like a difference there, I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's talk about what's that difference between agentifiable versus automatable.
Automation is a great technology, but it's deterministic. It's like, this is the process to follow every single time. And if you have a well-defined process that doesn't change, has very low variance, is repeated over and over again the same exact way, there was a lot of those processes. It created a, decacorn, right? Like, there's a lot of work out there that fits that bill. And RPA was the solution for that in that era. But the work that is non-deterministic, that requires some thinking and has variance when it happens, and has more outcomes than A, B, or C, that is where AI now can be applied to help turn that into work that either gets automatically done or is done with a human in the loop. It just gets done much faster, more efficiently, and oftentimes more accurately. So that's the difference, like the deterministic versus non-deterministic. And when I, got a chance to meet folks at Writer and saw the technology and understood, with the type of customers we have, this blue chip Fortune 500 that already were getting success and seeing return, it was a no-brainer to come and help here. And then I think you asked, like, okay, well, what was the mission? Like, what did I come to do? As the marketing leader, I saw where it fit my skill set was especially around like telling the story here and helping position and help the market understand, because great technology, great success, but it's like such a noisy, confusing market that telling a crystal clear, crisp story around like how your company does it, what you do, why it's important, is always like the most attractive part of the marketing job for me. It's like growing up in product marketing and the positioning work that I've done just as an IC, like I've always focused on that. And so that was, to me, the most attractive thing, is like taking this great technology and helping the company tell its story with so much good stuff under the covers already, with the technology and the team and the leadership, et cetera.
Can you walk us through your perspective on how agentic AI is changing this landscape that we are working in as marketers? Not only just from our perspective as a team, but with the folks that you talk with that are, Writer customers.
Yeah. So I get to talk to a lot of our customers because we work with a lot of marketers. And so I'm very blessed and fortunate to get to pick the brains of world-class CMOs. And, I hear the same refrain that I've heard my whole career for marketers, which is do more with less, right? We're always being told, do more with less. understandably, right? Like we're not the product, we're the engine that helps drive the product's growth. So we're always fighting for resources because the product comes first, right? So we're always being asked to do more with less. And it has been absolutely turbocharged with AI because now it's not this like blanket, like, hey, can you do more with less request? It's, hey, I saw these demos. I'm hearing about AI. It does these things. Hey, AI can write. Why don't we use AI everywhere and use it and do, cut your budgets and do all this stuff, right? The refrain has grown even louder for marketers to do more with less because of AI. And that's understandable, but it's challenging because then if everyone is using AI and using the same tools, how does your brand stand out, right? How do you differentiate? Like, I actually think AI is forcing marketers to spend more time thinking about brand differentiation and personal relationships than ever before. And that's what I'm seeing with the best of the best out there, is that they're thinking about, how do I use AI to scale, right? For speed, to really do things at a bigger, faster, more efficient pace so that I can focus on my differentiation, my brand, and actually put more humanity into my marketing so that we stand out more and create more deeper, more personal relationships with our customers. And so there's like this duality happening where it's like automate AI as much as possible, but also invest more in your differentiation and what makes you unique. And so I'm loving watching that unfold.
So, without name dropping, is there an example of a customer that you've said, okay, this is how it's done right? Or you could also talk about our team and how we're doing it.
Yeah, so our team is great at this. I'll drop some of those examples along the way, but big retail intimates brand that everyone knows, their customer hours, and when they bring a product to market, and this is like where we have a lot of customers in the CPG and retail space, and when you bring a product to market, there's a lot of tactical execution in terms of how you take it across all your digital channels, right? You have to create product detail pages across sometimes thousands of different channels in hundreds of different countries. And so what we're seeing with those types of companies, and that one specifically, is they'll write a product brief, they'll write a product detail page, and then they'll use AI to scale it across all of the different vendors that they're going to actually be selling to. And AI is helping them do that at a bigger scale, faster and cheaper, but also reach more actual channels and improve their coverage and their distribution in a way they couldn't before, because they'd have to create thousands of pages. People would have to write pages. And so now what they're focusing on is, well, what's the differentiation of this product? Like, they're putting more time into the creativity and the origination of the ideas and then letting AI take it to scale.
And just to clarify, because we started out in a moment where it was like, okay, yeah, this AI can write multiple versions of this and format it to multiple channels. But then the next step in that is bringing those connectors, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just the agent writing it; it's now doing.
That's right. That's right. So it's not like, okay, well, here I'm going to put 1,000 pages in a folder and then go send it to your program developers and let them do the work. It's actually developing it, bringing a human in the loop to review and make sure everything's okay, and then actually posting these pages.
Yeah, staging them and publishing them.
Staging and publishing them. So it's like the full cycle, and that work doesn't create a lot of value for the company. It's the origination and it's the ideation and it's the it's the actual product ideas and the product positioning is where the value is created. And now humans are focusing more on that and less on the actual development and deployment work.
Yeah. And just to kind of reflect back on this whole agentic experience versus that, I think we would say wave one now of like the generative AI experience is I will sit down and use the writer platform, not to pitch our own product, but that's what I use, to develop like a really big piece of long form content. And then, back in the day, I would say, okay, now just give me some ideas for how we can extend the value for this content, using it strategically, but I'd say just give me some ideas.
Right.
And it would stop there. And then I would have to pass those ideas and kind of map out exactly how to do it and work with the dev team, for example. And now it's getting to the point where I'll say, okay, give me some ideas. And then I'll say, all right, this is a good one. Let's go ahead and build out this idea. And like, for example, a ROI, interactive ROI calculator, right? The agent all of a sudden goes from not just coming up with the idea, but doing the idea, bringing it to life. And then the next step would be connecting that to the system itself, which I think is probably right now we're at run in our team and we're on the verge of fly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I love about your example, Laura, is that it represents, I think there's this like duality in how it's being used and how it will continue to grow inside businesses. There's this like short tail and long tail of adoption, I think. Well, we see this. The fat tail is these departmental processes that involve multiple team members, multiple groups inside the business. They're like the foundational mission critical workflows that run the department. So in our case, like campaigns, right? We have an agent that we built that helps us or it orchestrates our campaign process. You upload a campaign brief, it creates the assets, it uploads things to various outlets, and it helps orchestrate that campaign process from end to end in a way that matches our process. And we had a team that we worked with to build it, map the requirements, and now the team uses it. And we're a much better and higher, faster performing organization for that respect, right?
Yeah.
That's a short tail. And there's like, probably dozens that we have there, but most organizations are going to have a couple of really impactful short tail workflows. Then what you need is to enable people to be able to agentify their own individual day and workflows, right? And that's where the long tail comes into play, because what you just described, Alara, like maybe 3 people in our organization do that. And, we're not a Fortune 500 company yet, but we're not tiny. But think about a Fortune 500 company, maybe 15 people do what you're just explained, right? It may not be enough to get like into production with a development team, team that to build the workflow for you. But when you add up the hour, 2 hours of every day you're saving, and everyone else is doing that because they're able to, equip and work on you have an agent, we call it action agent, that you can work with to agentify your own personal workflows. That's when the magic of it really starts to happen, because now you got the short tail where, organizational processes are being agentified, and then you have the long tail where individual processes are being agentified. And that's where I think we're going to see the real success and growth and where it's going.
So as you've been working with these customers, where you've been working with our team, you're kind of coming up with some principles that you think are kind of universally applicable for this type of organization. And I'd love to hear some of those core principles for this manifesto that you're developing.
Yeah, well, I think first it comes down to the future ready marketing engine, right? So that is an engine that, and we touched upon this just a little while ago, but you have to build your engine for speed, scale, right? And we talked about that, so I won't go deeper there, but relevance, right? Contextual relevance. It has to be relevant to the right personas and adaptable. Another awesome use cases that we use it for, and a lot of our customers are using it for, is to take an asset and create variations for different personas and different segments and different ICPs. And being able to take, personalization at scale, I think is actually starting to really happen because of agents. And so you need that contextual relevance in your engine needs to drive contextual relevance, but it also needs to drive the humanity. And so we talked about that too. Your engine needs to have a way for not only people to focus on the human aspect of creativity and abstract thinking, decision making, but also a way for your engine and your AI to interact with your humans. So figure out a way that they get in the loop and they connect and work with AI. But the future ready marketing engine, I think above all, it's going to require much more high touch interactions with your customers. And that's another area that I think AI can really help us by giving us space in which to work, because AI is handling the scale and the routine and the stuff that, is automatable. That gives us the ability to end up spending more of our time and more of our resources on customer relationships. And I think that's one area that, if I look at how Ryder is doing it, and a philosophy that existed before I even got here, but I wholeheartedly believe in, as an organization, we put a fair amount of resources into our field marketing, right? And because we believe, going back to the very beginning of our conversation, we have to spend more on brand and more on differentiation and spend more time helping the market understand who we are. We also have to spend more time with our customers, because if everything is all digital and all coming through AI, you need to spend the time to build a relationship and differentiate in person. And so the future ready marketing engine also creates a lot of space for high touch engagements with your customers.
It's almost like AI scales the scalable so you can perform the unscalable.
Well said, Alora. I totally agree with that. One half of it is figuring out how to apply AI. The other half is figuring out how to apply the benefits and savings from AI to differentiation and deeper customer relationships. And I love it. We put an emphasis on that.
Yeah.
And you see the difference. And I've been out there talking to a lot of my peers, and I'm hearing that the area that is hottest for them, aside from the AI investments, is field marketing investments. So it's like, it feels a little counterintuitive because we're in the age of scale, but CMOs are realizing this, that I need to make these investments in these relationships, because that's where you can really create a bond with your customer base. That's one thing, like building this future ready marketing engine. Then you have to figure out how how you work AI into your team as a member of the team, so to speak. I'm not big on anthropomorphizing AI. We don't like putting pictures of androids on our website and stuff like that. It's not a human, right? It's not a replacement for a person. But you have to figure out how to make AI work inside your team. In pre-AI, marketing was a combination of subject matter experts doing things, operations teams, and technology, right? And I think what you have to add to that mix is your AI management as well. So you're going to have your humans and your people, you're going to have your operations and your technology, and I think you're going to have your AI management that's going to be working with your team on creating those agents that are more departmental, enabling the people to build and work on their own AI initiatives, and also manage the AI systems. And figuring out how that sits inside your organization is another principle that every organization has to figure out. How do I manage my AI? And how do I pick the right agent for the right type of job? AI empowered team is the second principle.
One of the big conversations that I keep seeing on LinkedIn is kind of this tug of war between leaders who are saying adopt AI or you don't have a job, right? And then you've got people who are saying AI is amazing force multiplier. And then you have folks that are saying you're evil if you want me to adopt AI. And I feel like there's a definite mindset shift, that starts to happen. How do you encourage that? Who do you look to embrace that? And what's the lesson for folks who refuse to?
So I am in the camp that no doubt you have to embrace AI. I mean, you could have predicted that, I guess, right? Given the podcast.
Have this job otherwise. Yeah,
exactly. There's no turning back. I'm a big student of technology history. I actually geek out on books on the computing revolution and how technology gets implemented and deployed. And there's two books that everyone should read in this: is Technological Revolutions and Financial Capital by Carlota Perez. It's an economic thesis. It's like 75 pages, but it explains how capital gets deployed, how technological cycles work, and then how capital gets deployed at each stage of a technological cycle. And these repeat themselves. And we're in a new cycle right here. Sorry, I know I'm tangenting, but I always recommend that book because
You're
it's like
geeking
one of
out.
those, yeah, geeking out.
Geek away.
Everyone should read that book, and everyone should read Understanding Media by Marshall McLuhan. Those two books are foundational for thinking about how to take the long view of technology strategy. And what's great about Understanding Media is, okay, he wrote it in the 60s. He looks at every technology and how society shaped and adapted around it. And it's amazing how when you think about stuff that just to you and I are history, the telephone, the television, the phonograph, right? Like things, the automobile. Well, at one point, these were new technologies that society had to adjust and adapt to. And society tends to reshape itself around the technology, right? And we saw it with social media. Our society has completely changed thanks to social media, for good or bad, probably bad, but it is what it is. And then AI is another technology, latest wave that society. So if you read this book, you're going to see that this is just history repeats itself, right? No, it doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And in this particular case, it's definitely rhyming. Side note, if you read it, half of the book is unintelligible, kind of like abstract thinking. So don't get mad at me. The other half is like change your worldview. But what you take away from it is that society will reshape itself. Society will persist. Society will survive. It's just going to be in a different form than what we got used to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever. You're going to adapt. And if you don't understand that and go along for the ride and adapt with it, you're going to be a dinosaur and you're not going to be able to adapt and work in the future. So you have to embrace it. You have to wrap your hands around it. You just have to tackle it heads on and use it every day until it becomes comfortable. So this leads into the third principle. If that's okay. If you, I'm sorry, I know I'm monologuing here on you, but I'm going to the third principle. This goes to the third principle. It's like your team has to have a mindset shift. Your team, especially in the Fortune 500, Global 2000, probably people who are really good at what they do. They've probably gotten there because they're experts. They're great. Like our team is full of fantastically talented people that I trust to do their jobs because they are better than me and in the top 1% of their craft. I feel that way about our team, right? I'm going to them and I'm saying, I want you to try something different and new and change the way you work every day. You've been doing this for 20 years. Now I want you to do something different. I want you to build an agent to do part of that job for you. Our team is pretty good with that because you're attracted to a company like ours. You have a progressive mindset in that regard. But when you're working with people who don't necessarily want to lean into AI, that could be challenging. And so you really have to top down change the mindset, force people to think about replacing parts of their jobs with technology. Otherwise, someone will replace them ultimately. And we don't want our people to be replaced. We want them to evolve and adapt and learn. So you have to drive a mindset from the top down that it's not a question. It's something that we're going to do. I know you do this thing and it takes you an hour every day. And if I'm asking you to use AI to refactor it, and that's going to take you 8 hours right now to figure out. Like when people are forced to make that decision, it's like, well, I'm just going to do the hour-long thing because that's like, and I know how to do it. I don't have to my brain doesn't have to work too hard. I can just do the hour-long thing. But if we do this 8-hour project, we turn that hour-long every day into 2 minutes. And now we will be much more effective at our jobs. So you have to change the mindset. It has to be a top-down push. You have to give people the carrot and the stick. And you also have to force them to prove that when they want to do something new, it can't be done with AI. So, for example, I want to buy a new technology. We have a new process that we're creating. Okay, let's go and buy all this technology. Let's create these long projects. Let's build all these processes. I force the team, and this is what people need to do, to prove that it can't be done with an agent. We don't use traditional sales enablement software here at Writer, right? I'm not going to slag any vendors because I think they're great products. But like when we sat down and said, do we want to go and use sales enablement? Do we want to go purchase typical sales enablement tools? We said, can an agent do that work for us? So we created agents that do the sales enablement work, that help sales write, do the research, look what we have available, create the outbounding messaging and whatnot. So you got to force people when they're about to, do things the old way, stop and think, can AI do this? And if he can, make that investment in extra time to get it going for the first time.
What are the other considerations? You said, if you go to buy technology, what are the other opportunities that you can say, okay, what can we do with an agent here?
Yeah, I think there's like three just like there's long tail there too, but three is buying technology. Two is a new project and new initiative that requires new processes to be established. And three, when you're trying to fix something, right? When like you're looking at a process and it's like, I'll give you an example. Our outbounding is not meeting expectations. Like peek behind the scenes here, real life writer example. And this is, I give credit to our head of demand gen, Andrew Racine, who is a fantastic, VP of DG. He's awesome. I love
Shout
working
out
with
to
him.
Andrew.
Shout out to Andrew. Awesome. And so like he was looking at a problem we had where our sales reps were not using the stuff that we in marketing were creating. All these awesome, Laura, I bet this hits you close to home. All these awesome assets you create.
Don't know what you talk about, Diego.
It's like eternal for us, right? In marketing, it's like, oh, we create all this great stuff. Why aren't you using it? And then they complain, I don't have anything to work with, right? And I love our sales team is awesome. But this is just like the eternal sales marketing condition, right?
Because they're just focusing on go, out, and they don't have that connection to our team in the way that we do. And we're like, this exists.
Right. And so Andrew's like, where are we having this challenge? And he realized they don't know how to position the assets and they don't know where to go for it. And they just don't know how to interact with the stuff that we created. So Andrew created this, like he calls the PG Kit-O-Matic, the pipeline generation Kit-O-Matic, which can take any asset we create in marketing, create a whole outbounding kit around it that includes emails, LinkedIn messages, call scripts, everything that a rep needs to help them outbound based on the asset. So if we write something really cool, I think, anything, any of ebooks, Laura, you're a prolific author of our ebooks, any of your ebooks. Once we have an asset, we put it through the PG Kit-O-Matic. It creates all the outbound materials, and then it goes and posts it to our Notion pages, which is where the reps go for their materials, and it notifies them that it's available.
And as the content marketer, it does my heart so good to see my sales reps out on LinkedIn pitching, a blog post or, just borrowing language from something and positioning themselves as thought leaders in this space so they can win trust out there in their industries that they're selling to.
We get a lot of credit for our organization being very active in that regard, right? Like I hear it all the time. I don't think people are lying to me. I think it's genuinely like we're really good at that. People say you're visible, your people are out there, you're talking about it. It's because we've used AI to enable that going back to the human, the human work, right? Like I need a human to do that stuff. I need people. I need to equip and empower the hundreds of people in Writer to go and be advocates and spokespeople, amplifiers of our message, right? And I'm making it as easy as possible for the people to do that part of the job, which is the human part, which is the posting and sharing and putting their context and color. AI is doing so much more of the heavy lifting under the covers to get us to that point where the human can jump in. And so this was a great example of we had to fix something that wasn't working well. And we just said, wait, can an agent do this for us? And, once again, think of that short tail, right? It wasn't a departmental process. It wasn't something that we like top down. I said, we need better at this. It was the person who knows the best.
And, I don't know if you see this at your level of the organization, but I see it because of these PG kits that we're passing off to our sales team. I'm getting more direct requests from the sales team for content of like, I'm having these conversations with the customers, and I think it would really be helpful if we could have this.
Yeah, virtuous cycle.
It's opening up that conversation and getting rid of the silo.
Absolutely. Total virtuous cycle. It's the right way to apply it. I'm very proud of the team in that regard.
We are getting close to time here, and I want to give more opportunity to explore stuff. So I would like to see what you're seeing as the way forward as a CMO. What do you think the big opportunities and challenges are in the next, I don't know, I would say 5 years, but everything moves so fast that it could be in the next 6 months.
What I find really, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we'll get there, is AI as the organizational orchestrator. Yeah, I think we rely on a lot of project management tools to move work throughout the teams. And we already said, like, there's two kinds right now, right? There's like departmental mission critical workflows, and then there's the personal long tail task oriented workflows. I'm excited about AI orchestrating the work across the team and being more like a departmental conductor. And I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're ready for that yet. I think we have to get these other two more mature. But then, thinking about how we replicate some of the things that like our project management tools are doing, so that people don't have to think about coordination and orchestration anymore. They can just do the work, right? And so that's one of the things that excites me the most about where AI is going in the next wave. We're not there yet, though, because if you think about, like, if you took a stopwatch and you just measured like where people spend their time, coordination of activities is such a massive amount of it, and agents can help with that greatly.
And getting everybody in the same process of coordination, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Because as a project management nerd, I will attest that we have some very, very brilliant, talented marketers who refuse to work in the same project management software. And it's because they just haven't built that muscle, and because they are moving constantly and they just can't slow down to get trained on that process.
Yeah. These are huge transaction costs inside teams and organizations that I think once we get AI doing departmental stuff and personal stuff, I think it'll get better and it'll learn, and then it can start orchestrating across the entire team, not just task by task or function by function.
What's something, imagine yourself sitting there over the shoulder of that kid who's doing the baseball sim game. What would you tell him?
I would tell him, just let's talk specifically about AI, right? I feel pretty good about our pace and my pace of adoption, but I think we spent a lot of time in the first wave of generative AI doing email summarization and meeting notes, and I would have invested even sooner in connecting to tools, doing departmental workflows. I think, like, it's 2025.
Oh, so you're not talking to the kid on the baseball game right now.
Yeah,
You're talking to young
hey, I'm
Diego,
still,
or
yeah, the
Diego
Diego.
taking the helm of writer. Okay. All right.
No, even prior to that, yeah, yeah. I think the real value is in what we're seeing now, and I think it took some cycles to get there, and we spent too much time on personal productivity stuff. As far as a kid goes, I would say tinkering, right? That to me was really a boon for me as a marketer, being able to understand how coding works, how developers think, working with my development team and understanding the technology at the code level. I would say keep doing that. You make the pivot at the right time, but also don't give it up. And keep going, because I do feel like my skills are a little rusty there, and I wish I kept some side projects, because with this pace it's hard to keep up with the development cycles of AI. But I would say keep your hands dirty in the code, because I don't think anything's helped me more as a marketer differentiate myself and help me do a good job as my technology background has enabled me.
Do you think, if you were talking to, say, me as a marketer, and these are, where we're starting to really see folks shine as power users of AI, as non-technical builders, do you think that there is an advantage to picking up some coding skills?
I do. I'm in the camp that, like, my son just started college and he's studying computer science. And, there's a part of me that said, I know that's what he's interested in, but should I be ushering him somewhere else, right? Because of, all the coding tools. And, like, the way people code is going to be different. It is clearly different already, but the skills around logic and structured thinking and how to orchestrate technology builds, I think, is always going to be there. It's just going to be the tools. You're just adding more abstraction on top of programming. Programming, like, has always continued to add layers of abstraction. We started with machine language, then we got, the visual languages, right? And then we get, things like Python and PHP and all these like layer abstraction above. I think AI is just another layer abstraction above the coding, and someone has to wrangle it and manage it. I think it's still a really valid, worthwhile thing to do and learn. I don't know if necessarily marketers need to go and be hands-on developers, but you have to be builders. You have to be AI builders. And so from day one, you should be working with learning AI and not just a passive user of AI, but someone who is shaping AI to do your work for you, building your own agents, building your own workflows with agents, facilitating the actual design of your AI usage as opposed to just being a passive user of it. Because that similar understanding will help you have edges against people who don't have that are just passive users of it.
So, CMO to CMO in our audience, what do you think they should be looking for as they build their new marketing team of the future, their AI empowered marketing team?
You need your subject matter experts. You need the people who know how to do the functions. Like, I would not homogenize all the functions. I wouldn't have just like generalist marketer and generalist marketer and generalist marketer. Like, people who know demand gen, people who know content, people who know comms, people who know product marketing, people who know the different functions and have studied and become expert in them. That's still really important. But are they complementing that with AI skills that enable them to do their job bigger, better, faster? So you want to find that balance of like, they're subject matter experts, but they also have AI skills. Like, that person will do better than a pure subject matter expert with no AI skills, and they'll do much better than someone who's like AI generalist without the subject matter skills.
All right. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you wanted to cover?
No, I'm a techno optimist, and I think if you read those books I recommended, I believe that this technology is going to shape marketing for the better, and we'll figure out how to adopt it in a meaningful way. And I'm excited about where it's going to, how it's going to enable people and really change, like I said, the ability of companies to focus on actual differentiation, personalization, and relationships. So I think we covered it all.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Diego.
Thanks, Laura. Great talking to you, as always.